Soldiers of the Empire takes us to late Season 5, and for the first return of Martok after his release in By Inferno's Light. Martok wasn't intended to be a recurring character. He was a one-off who just kept being brought back because they liked him until they realized the opportunity that the character offers. As you can see, Martok is having a bad day. Not because he's wounded, that's all in a day's work for a Klingon, but being lectured by Bashir on getting himself wounded, that's not what you expect. But it happened because he insists on training in dangerous situations without replacing his lost eye with the cybernetic one. Despite having spent a month with Martok in a Dominion prison, Bashir doesn't understand the Klingon culture that's behind his decision. You know, the long history of both the Empire and Martok himself that compels the man as surely as water flows downhill to push his limits and to embrace his scars, wherever that takes him. Whatever dangers that might bring, that is the Klingon way. But no, Bashir insists on lecturing just because it's a pointless risk and life is precious and acting out of foolish pride is somehow a bad idea. What a dick. Meanwhile, poor Nog is stuck trying to help Worf work on the Defiance phasers.
This thing just doesn't work, sir.
Very well. We'll start over. Go to the engine room and download the operating system into the computer core. But this time, do it one file at a time.
Oof, that's the maintenance equivalent of cleaning the floor with a toothbrush. Worf's like a drill sergeant. Well, our Klingon friend swings by to see Worf, leading to a problem for poor Nog. He's stuck between Martok and a hard case. Don't care, I stand by my awful pun. Turns out that the wound wasn't because of the holosuite, but happened while sparring with Worf. Martok is still rusty. He lied because the truth would probably compel Bashir to do something and make this stupid thing into something official. Anyway, the behemoth vanished along the Klingon border, and Martok has been given command of the Rhotaran to go and look for it. And he was hoping that Worf would join the mission as his first officer. After the titles, Worf explains to Sisko about why he needs to do this, how he was ready to just let the Jem'Hadar kill him in the ring rather than go on in their prison.
Just before I went into the ring, Martok turned to wish me success, and then he saw what I was planning. He saw it in my eyes. It was a moment of Toba Dok.
Of what?
There is no human word for it. It is a moment of clarity between two warriors on the field of battle. Much is said without the need for words. In that moment, he knew what was in my mind. Once I realized that he saw my intention to give up, I could no longer go through with it.
The thing to remember in this episode is that Martok's previous appearances were as a changeling, save for when first encountered in the previously mentioned two-parter. The role he would play in Seasons 6 and 7, that's all in the future. Right now, he's just a returning character for the audience. There's lots of episodes that you can return to years later and have it feel the same as the first time. But this is not one of them, because you're not going to forget that this is but the first of many returns of the character. So Sisko gives his ass-kicking seal of approval, and just in time for the Rhotaran to arrive. While Kira hands out assignments to fill in for him while he's gone, Dax and O'Brien explains what we saw Riker go through recently in A Matter of Honor, the somewhat looser structure and need to relieve your superior if you, use the official term, act like a jackhole, or jackal in the Klingon language. A couple members of the crew come in, which impresses the hell out of the group at the table, especially when Odo says that one of them is wearing a necklace of Cardassian neck bones. Actually, that seems less impressive the more you think about it, because you don't really need that many kills to have a necklace of neck bones, do you? You get kind of a lot, and that's with a normal person. Factor in that you're dealing with a Cardassian who looks like a cobra knocked up a giraffe. Well, Worf is all dolled up in his Klingon threads, ready to say his goodbye, when Dax surprises him during the departure. There's going to be no departure. She's coming along. The ship is short-handed, see, so she got permission to tag along. But this is not going to be any vacation. Turns out that despite how impressive those guys might have looked to everyone, Their record is the opposite of impressive. These people have not had a victory in over half a year.
If you're looking for victories, you won't find any. Not for the last 7 months.
I do not need help recognizing a list of failures.
I went through Season 1 TNG. I know what a list of failures looks like. Worf assures them that despite them being clearly crap, he's ready to help them finally find victory. And that's Martok's cue to arrive and have them set out. Already there is tension, though, as Martok orders a course that will add an entire day to their travel time, just so they can avoid potential Jem'Hadar ships. A Klingon vessel dragging its feet to avoid a fight is the opposite of what a crew struggling to find victory needs. That's the equivalent of being told that you're not worth being put in when the team is down by 50 points. You're not even worth putting in when we expect to lose. Worf tries raising spirits with a warrior's song, but few join in. They're so used to being pushed around, their heart just isn't in it. It's like singing a Christmas carol in June to sing a warrior's song when you're a loser. Like I said, they're used to being pushed around, although by a trill is probably a new experience. Remember that the Klingons were fighting the Federation not long ago, so Dax, especially in her Starfleet uniform, needs to quickly ensure the crew doesn't see her as weak. Taking issue with someone taking her seat is thus showing that she won't be pushed around, and following it up by breaking out some blood wine that she brought along then helps build the kind of camaraderie that only an open bar can offer. I've given Jadzia crap in the past, so let me just say this is an episode where she is acting like the person that we're told she is, so that's an immediate point in its favor. Meanwhile, Martok is outraged at the records for his crew, and Worf says the real issue is the need for a victory, any victory, but preferably one over the Jem'Hadar. Then these behavioral problems will likely just go away. Defeat after defeat, that's probably like a thorn that's been snagged in your sock, an annoying presence that you can't eliminate, and then sometimes just digs right into you. Had to dig around in the bushes when my wife dropped my keys off the side of the porch. I can tell you that analogy works.
We must be cautious. We cannot risk taking this crew into combat before they're ready.
They will be ready. I will see to that.
I know you will, my friend. Together we will make the Rhotaran an honorable ship again, a ship worthy of the Empire.
Worf made an enemy of Gowron because of his honor code and its incompatibility with Klingon imperial ambitions. Martok offered a strong counterpoint. Worf is in many ways an avatar of Klingon ideal because he measured himself against that ideal his whole life, in mind and in body. He was not competing with his comrades, but with an image of perfection. When Martok first encountered him then, stripped of all the baggage of Klingon culture and saw Worf's abilities, which were impressive enough, as well as his spirit, Martok could see him for what he was, and admired him. In return, he was a Klingon on the inside with power and influence who gave Worf respect. That the same way that Worf wouldn't yield to the pressure of a Jem'Hadar beating, he wouldn't yield to political pressure, even if all he had earned would be stripped from him. Martok thus served the vital role of being the face of the Klingon Empire without any of the baggage of Worf's discommendation getting in the way. To be Klingon, rather than having experience with Klingons. Speaking of which...
This ship is made for tears, not laughter.
You're really not much fun at parties, are you, Garnet?
Make your jokes. Hold off fate for another day if you can. But this ship, and all the souls within its hull, are cursed.
What is it with you and curses? Yeah, I ain't happy without a good curse. This is cursed. That is cursed.
Yes, despite the wine, the mood keeps turning sour as someone has to dash the good mood with talk of their failure. Mr. Sunshine even grabs onto Dax when they're called to the bridge so he can foretell of their pending failure. And sure enough, despite the fact that the Rhotaran has a single Jem'Hadar ship dead to rights, Martok refuses to engage it, snatching away a chance for an easy victory that could have raised the crew's morale. Dax even takes Worf aside to point out the dangerous situation that they're in. This crew's disciplinary problems are the result of a sense of failure and dishonor. the danger of that to the ship is far greater than the unlikely chance the Dominion could make trouble for them after destroying one ship from ambush. But in Martok's paranoid brain, there's a Jem'Hadar hiding behind every lump of rock out here, and he views any idea of an attack as suggesting that he stick his junk in a blender. Meanwhile, in the mess hall, the mouthy one is going off about how much better it was fighting Cardassians. They were worthy adversaries. That's no doubt why he wears their bones as trophies. I respect you enough to treat your body parts like jewelry. Take a guess where this money sack came from. Let's just say these aren't the first jewels it held. But the Jem'Hadar, they're nothing but manufactured killing machines.
They have no honor. You're right. That's why they're better than us.
Oh, snap. That is walking into a meeting of World War II veterans, taking a crap on the Constitution and wiping your ass with the American flag.
Martok fears them. That's why we didn't attack them! Martok fears them!
Oh, and it's a leap off the ropes, taking him to the mat, and the tag is coming in. Oh, but this fighter's got plenty for him, too. I have not seen a match in this ring like this since L'Rell demanded the last slice of blood pie. Dax finally has to phaser the guy into unconsciousness, then tells Worf the unpleasant truth that right now, Martok is not the leader that this crew needs. They need someone who will convince them that they can win, not someone already certain that they will lose. But not to worry, we've found the missing ship. It's damaged and in need of help, but they have found it. Mission accomplished. Except, now Martok is convinced this is some kind of trap. There's no way the ship survived. The Jem'Hadar would have destroyed it utterly unless they wanted it to serve as bait. It's not helped because the ship drifted across the border, a provocation if they were to cross it, although Worf points out the Jem'Hadar don't really need a reason to attack. Usually just hello is enough. But Martok is firm in his decision and storms off. And this is a bridge too far. Crew morale is important, yes, but this time Martok's hesitation is going to cost the lives of any survivors on that ship. Worf just can't let that stand. So, he needs to challenge Martok for command. Again, keep in mind that at this point in the show, Martok is not a recurring character for the audience. He's a guy who Worf befriended a few episodes ago, so there's a genuine question of where this could go. Well, soon the crew confront Worf.
He is a coward. While he commands, he dishonors us all.
I shed no tears for your dishonor, Lesket.
Oh, burn! But Worf then shocks them by giving the order to get to battle stations. They're heading in to save that ship. Martok is flabbergasted at Worf's behavior and challenge, but Worf takes a swing at him, and soon it's knives out. But Worf's intention isn't to take command from Martok. He's trying to help the man get back what the Dominion had taken from him after 2 years on that asteroid. So in the clinch, Martok and Worf lock eyes, as Worf explained to Sisko, and Martok delivers a non-fatal wound that takes Worf out of the fight and lets the crew know that their captain is once again a badass. So when a Jem'Hadar ship appears, Martok doesn't flinch from battle, but instead makes clear to his crew they're about to join him in a long-awaited, much-deserved victory. Worf, on the other hand, limps away from a fight he just lost. Certainly not the first time that's happened. After returning in triumph, Martok eventually finds Worf on the upper level in Quarks to thank him for what he did. Worf brushes it off as payback for what happened in the Dominion prison, but Martok won't let it stop here. After all, allowing another to defeat you, wound you, in front of your own crew, that is not what a Klingon with any ambition would ever do. They'd seen Martok as a has-been to be swept aside for becoming a shell of the man that he once was. Only a true idealist would allow it to happen, to place the good of the Empire, by seeing one of its great generals restored, as being far more important than his own warrior's pride. And so Martok offers Worf the chance to join his household. This, it could be argued, is even greater than restoring the House of Mogh. Martok is not only undoing the dishonor Gowron heaped on Worf, he is saying that anyone who questions this man's honor is questioning his own. This man, he is telling every Klingon, is not my ally, not my friend. He is as close to me as a brother. Post-episode follow-up? Annoying character goes to the lighting. Oh, I know it's needed, but I feel like I'm back in the 70s when yellow light and cigarette smoke was everywhere. Final score for Soldiers of the Empire is 7 out of 10. It's a solid entry in the Deep Space Nine story that takes us to a place where we don't typically go, and this time in a way that differs from the others when we do. Usually that's about the contrast with the familiar Starfleet way. This time, life on a Klingon bird of prey is treated as normal, and the aberration is the sense of defeat for both crew and captain. This episode was a challenge to Ron Moore by Ira Steven Behr to make Star Trek Klingon, the first draft being too much and instead was revised into the previously discussed Barge of the Dead on Voyager. And that was a wise choice. The episode works much better with Martok battling the very demons that he sees in his own crew, and Worf being the man who puts the cause before himself. A nice development for both of them.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
So I have to walk around this station feeling like you don't really care, do you?